Welcome back to the VET S.O.S podcast network. Remember, you do not have to drown in the sea of transition. Grab that VET S.O.S Lifeline. We're here to help. Greetings, guests, listeners, and pull up the chair to come sit on the stoop to get the scoop, because one of the questions I'm going to come out saying right now with our guest, Michael Cline, is, can the places that nearly broke you become the place that prepare you to lead? Let's think of that. Let's just sit on that right there. Let me say it one more time. Can the places that nearly broke you become the places that prepare you to lead? It doesn't just reveal character. It refines it. And thank you, brother, for coming on. Thank you for being a part of the VET S.O.S podcast network. And imagine if every machine has a red line, a point to where pushing harder risks to catastrophic failure. But what about people? How much pressure can a person endure before they break? Or what if pressure was never meant to destroy us, but to reveal what we were capable of becoming? Because today's guest knows something about pressure. Growing up in a broken home, serving as a Black Hawk mechanic, leading under impossible circumstances, and learning that the strongest leaders aren't forged in comfort. They're forged in adversity. Michael Cline is the author of Beyond the Red Line, From a Broken Home to the Flight Line, How a Black Hawk Mechanic Mastered the Art of Strategic Command. So today we're going to be talking about resilience, leadership, discipline, identity, who you are, who you're becoming. We're going to touch on some military service and definitely strategic thinking, and why your greatest challenge may become your greatest leadership advantage. So pull up a chair, come and sit on the stoop, because we're about to get the scoop. What's going on, brother? How we doing today?
I'm good, Scott. Thank you for having me, man. Thank you for having me.
Hey, brother, look, this little handy book of acknowledgement of how you integrated the military mindset into when you was younger, not knowing that it was building you up to be a published author. So for that, thank you. Thank you for coming to sit on the stoop to share the scoop about your book. I personally appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm glad you do, and I hope it helps more.
Oh, it will, because we got to get down into it now. So I have a little bit of scoop about Mike, and I know the audience wants to know, what's the scoop on Michael Cline?
Well, I mean, like the book says, I mean, I came from a broken home, raised by a disabled grandmother. Me and my brother, and graduated high school somehow, joined the Army. Loved the Army, got out of the Army after 6 years, 2 deployments, crazy times. And then, I mean, I was a firefighter, worked for sales. Now I'm back to working on Blackhawks, have a wonderful family, wife and 4 kids. And finally sat down and wrote my life.
So you say, you know what? It's time to put this life in between these pages right here.
Oh, yeah. Well, that and a threat from my wife, but
right, because sometimes we need that extra push, right? We need that extra, like, you have it in you. Why not let others know where you came from, to give people that encouragement, that power to push forward? Because it's beyond the red line. So when I first got a copy of your book, as being in the Air Force, being in security forces, and being in the law enforcement realm, I'm thinking beyond the red line. I'm thinking like the red line on the flight line, right? Like, hey, don't break red, right? Because that's where you get to see pavement, and you get the spreading, and we making sure everything is good. But when I opened that book, it started to go in to the detailed conversation that you was having with the reader, which was myself. It was really beyond the red line. So my first question, and hopefully you could give us the scoop on this, is I like to ask the authors, what made you come up with the cover of the book? I see the Black Hawk helicopter. I see the mountain range. I see the sunsets.
So the best part about that picture is I took that picture during deployment in Bagram, Afghanistan. Now, there's a few
Wow.
details on it that I did edit and have changed, like the soldier saluting, but that sunset, it was one of my favorite pictures that I ever took in Bagram. It was a beautiful area. Loved the scenery. The people, not so much.
Mm. Yeah, and you talk about love the scenery, but before we get to Bagram, right? Because you have your book broken down into acts, right? The 5 acts, right? Like, and I like to touch on. I love to see how the author brings out the opening stage, right? The opening act, and I share with the reader. I say, man, when I walk through an airport, the first thing I look for is the cover, right? Because I'm a visual person, right? And I would have picked this book up because I was like, oh, Beyond the Red Line, seeing helicopter. I'm like, okay. In my mind, I'm thinking like, oh man, did they break red? As soon as I got through the first couple of pages, I seen E4 Mafia. So I'm like, oh, this is gonna I said to the E4 Mafia, I said, oh, this is gonna be a good read. So you touched on the unspoken command.
Yeah.
And that's where you start to build up your childhood identity. So you bring the reader into this young human trying to navigate, and you talk about the unspoken command, right? Because I love the way how you have the book structured, right? So let's go back to the identity. Who were you becoming when you put that in the first act of the book, the unspoken command?
I mean, at that point, I was a 5-year-old boy just going through something I didn't understand, just going from a home to some random lady taking care of me. I had no idea what I was going through, no idea what was shaping me, and luckily I had my first commander that was there ready to take me under her wing and show me the way.
Right. So you say show you the way. And for the ones who just tuning in, we're speaking to the author behind the red line, Michael Cline. And look, that even rhymes. That sounds so nice. Okay. That just rolls off the tongue so easily. And he's talking about the commander as being his grandma, right? So walk us through that process to where when you talked about in the book, it was you, your brother, and your sister. You and your brother got dropped off. You seen your sister drive off, and then now you're in this new command structure.
Oh yeah. It was yeah, it was. You get to a new unit anywhere, and you have to learn the the pecking order.
Mm.
I was new. I was learning the pecking order. She was there to be that be that commander and show me the way, show me what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to do it. And the way I see it, the best commanders are the ones that have gone through hell themselves. And she
Mm.
was living in a woman's home. She had gone through her own hell just recently and had every right to not take me and my brother in. She did it anyways.
She did it because she's seen the future, right? She's seen you as a 3-year-old growing up like, man, you're going to be this great person. So before the military ever taught you leadership, life was already teaching you survival.
Yeah.
So looking back, what did growing up in a broken home teach you that no leadership book could ever do? What's the
Honestly,
scoop on that?
the biggest thing is your history, your past it's not going to define who you can be.
Mm,
I mean, if I want to be just another statistic, I had a mom that was in the drug system, a father that disappeared. By all means, I should be in a ditch somewhere with a needle in my arm. But
mm.
through the right people and the right mentorship, I survived it.
Wow, and definitely survive. Wow, survive is an underword and an understatement. What invisible lesson from your childhood still shape you to lead today, right? Because you've learned a lot of lessons when you was younger, right? You talked about when you was in a deployed location, right? You had to pick up and go to a forward operator base, and when I was going through, I was reading the book. I was like, oh, I see what he's doing. He's bringing this back to his childhood, but he was actually, and his grandmother was teaching him the military environment, military structure as the general of the base, right? Of your living compound, right?
Oh yeah,
So what's
brought
the
in
scoop
the
on that?
military
Yeah.
lingo, so where it would connect to who I was hoping to connect to.
Mm. Uh, that's powerful. And believing that introduces us to the future simply exposes what's already inside of us. So since that moment, she was teaching you, hey, you are a leader. Hey, this is the rank structure. Like, even though I'm this person, I'm fighting for you. I'm fighting for your brother. I'm going to the court system. I'm gonna enroll you in school regardless what the system says.
Yeah.
So walk us through that. What's the scoop on that?
So, as most people know, if you have kids or you've gone through the public school, you have to be a parent or a legal guardian to enroll someone. And me and my brother were dropped off at my grandmother's on her doorstep at a woman's home. So she wanted to make sure that we got an education. I was
Mm,
5, my little brother was 4. She still wanted us to get that education, something that she felt we had a right to and that we needed. So she committed what some might call felony forgery, signing my parents' names herself just so we could start school. And I mean,
mm.
looking back now, if she would have been discovered, it would have meant hard jail time for her and would have meant me and him going into, unfortunately, the Southern California court system.
But she showed you by avoid allowing your circumstances to be your identity. And she was showing you and growing you into the identity you are becoming, right? As a young human, right? So you're moving around, it's like, man, why why do we have to keep moving? And some of the trauma you already seen when you was a younger child and you just didn't understand what was happening and going on. But in this time she was fortifying your brain, right? She was fortifying your structure.
Oh yeah, she was building that foundation. She didn't know it at the time, but she was building that strong foundation on how to be a good human and then later how to be a good leader.
Mm. And before life ever broke your heart, before the military, before helicopters, before leadership, who were you trying to become?
Honestly, her. She was my
Mm,
biggest hero, and no matter what the situation was, and that what got me every time I had to go through a military resilience training is that lesson of hunt the good stuff. No matter what situation we were going through, she'd always find something to bring us up, something to raise morale and just make me and my brother happy and not realize that we were going through hell, but we were happy going through it.
mm. And how much of that little boy is still leading your decisions today?
Oh, well, as I mentioned in my book, I'm actually a Pokemon professor. So a
Nice.
35-year-old man still playing a children's card game, this time
Right.
judging it. Aside from that, I still read every or every fiction book I can get a hold of. It's even better when I have kids because now I got friends to share it with.
Mm. Now, Pokemon, that's where we come into that mechanic zen, right? So now you're navigating it, you go through life, your grandma is preparing you, you move from one house to the next, you take the trip up north, right? You head off to Washington, you get reestablished there, you got a new duty location, as you put in the book. And now you went to school, you went to high school, you get into some trouble, and grandma had the decision to make. Like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
so what's the scoop on that? Like, what's, walking through that time before we get into the military? It was a certain pivot and turning point.
Oh yeah. I mean, absolutely. Age of 13, I'm thinking like every other 13-year-old. I want to do my own thing. I'm grown, so of course I start turning to drugs. Me and my little brother, we were getting high, and at that time I was a freshman in high school, and my little brother was in 8th grade. So, of course, he got caught, and me being a little bit older, my first thing was deny, deny, deny. Which, of course, the high school believed it. Although the true commander, she knew better, and she knew that if he was doing it, I was
you,
too.
I was say, yeah, you're not far behind, huh?
Oh yeah, no. So I got caught high at school, but not by the school. My grandmother, in lack of better terms, she dimed me out, but she taught me a lesson in doing so. I mean, I needed to do the right thing, and that was definitely not it.
Yeah, and then she said, well, I got to get you on the straight and narrow. So we're going to go into this care
Oh yeah, my
to get straightened up. What's the
everyone
scoop
else in
on
my
that?
class's first day of sophomore year was my first day at a Sundown M Ranch inpatient rehab facility.
And that right there, probably, as a teenager, what was going through your mindset at that time? You're like, man, I'm in here. I wonder if my friends gonna, what they gonna think about me, what they gonna say, how long I want to be in here, how can I get out, how can I escape? And I'm gonna be in here for all my life. Like, what is this gonna do
Oh yeah.
with my mentality moving forward?
Yeah, it was not to mention, I mean, my own parent had dined me out. Well, my grandmother, who was essentially my parent, she dined me out. So I'm feeling betrayed, a lot of anger, and of course, I don't want everyone at school and my grade to be talking behind my back and all of that nonsense. And as a teen, it's you don't know what's going to happen. It's scary. You go somewhere for the first time ever. You're 28 days at least in a place where you've never been. You're cut off from everyone, everything, and now you're given structure when you at most need it.
Yeah, and that, and it's like, man, when or if I ever get out of here, I swear I'm gonna do right. Like I'm gonna be like I'm gonna be on the straight and narrow. This is not what I expected. But now you get released, and this is where I call the opening of the, coming up to the military. It's like, man, I want to be a mechanic because I want to be in the air because it is this I call him a young man. He took you on that aircraft ride, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
he's like, man, wow, it feels good to get up and see the scene from a different level.
Yeah, my first landlord, well, not my first landlord, but the landlord I remember most because he literally took me under his wing. Mr. Jim Bell, he took me and my brother up in his little Cessna plane, and that was my first time flying. And it's a little Cessna, so you can still see out the sky or out the windows and see very clearly. And that's when I developed a love for aviation. I mean, it was a beautiful sight. And then, of
Yeah.
course, I joined ROTC or JROTC at that point, and yeah, that gave me the structure and started guiding me towards what I was going to do in the future.
Yeah, and you say I don't want anything. I'm like, if you can't get me a job that has anything dealing with aircraft, you could keep it. And being Fort Drum as your first due location, is like, man,
Oh yeah,
upstate New York, in the cold, on
yeah,
the flight line, being a mechanic.
Oh yeah, and I grew up on the West Coast, so of course I requested Fort Irwin, Fort
Right.
Lewis, anything on the West Coast, and in true Army fashion, they give me the furthest east they can get me.
Man, isn't that ironic how that happens, right? For me, I was on the East Coast and the furthest west they could get me was in Alaska, right? They wanted
Oh,
to make sure I was so far away because they probably knew, like, man, I would have been heading up that I-95 corridor, going back home to get into trouble, right? So they was like,
no,
no, we want you to be successful, so we're gonna start you out here.
yeah, and I mean, of course, I get to Fort Drum. My very first weekend, it's 4 feet of snow.
Mm.
I've never been in that much snow. That was scary to say the least. And then somehow I'm supposed to make it to the hangar at 05:30 on Monday, and 4 feet of snow. It was a shock for sure.
So for the ones who just pulling up, grabbing the seat, pulling up the chair on the stoop, getting the school, we're speaking to the author of Beyond the Red Line with Michael Cline. We're talking about navigating through life. Some you probably pull up like the red line. What is King's talking about? A red line on a flight line? No, we're talking about the red line. You ever have a car on a tachometer? You see that red line to where you're pushing, you're over that RPM, and then you're at that red line. That's what we were referring to beyond the red line. When you at that, and the needle just it keeps bouncing, and just want to keep going. But Michael had made it through the red line, and now we're discussing part 2 on his book, The Mechanics Zen, the military year. So, Michael, what's the scoop on this? People see helicopters. You saw systems,
Oh,
right? You wanted to, man, as a helicopter, because there's so many different moving parts. Everything is, you can't tighten it down to specs, I guess, because you have to have within a certain range because everything is moving, right? It's nothing static because the airframe is rigid. How did becoming a Black Hawk mechanic change the way you think about leadership?
well, I mean, so with anything aviation related, you have to do all maintenance by the book. The
Mm,
book is the Bible. But you start realizing that that Bible, that book, yes, it tells you one way to do it, but it doesn't tell you how that the correct way of how you should do it and why you should do it this way. And it's just something you have to learn to do. If it says do step A, B, C, it was written by an engineer that maybe has never done it and doesn't know that part
mm,
or step B is easier to do first. And it's
right.
just, you start realizing that everything operates in the system, and especially with a helicopter, it's a million rotating parts centered around one oil leak.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one thing you did mention in the book is, and this is what I got from it, right? One of the things is heavy is attention to detail, right? And definitely in the leadership role, one of the most underrated qualities is attention to detail. So as you're building up as a Black Hawk mechanic, you're going through the checklist, and if you miss one attention to detail, that aircraft could be down, that aircraft could be on standby. It's so many different things. Like you said, that one part.
Oh, yeah. It's you learn that the flight critical
Mm,
that aircraft is everything. And when you graduate AIT, even we traditionally sign our graduation mechanics creed in red ink to signify blood, because the second we sign off on a task that it's complete, we put at minimum 4 people's lives in our hands.
yeah. Because you have the pilot, the co-pilot, the engineer, and um, I forgot the
Crew chiefs.
and crew chief, right? So and not even talk about even if they're going on mission. So, and this is part of the invisible battle, right? Everyone sees the medals, the accomplishments, the leadership. What battle did nobody see you fighting?
Man, the 12-hour days, because we did 6 on 6 off, or 12 on 12 off in Afghanistan, worked 13 days straight with 1 day off. And it's Hollywood makes you see all that
Mm,
gun shows, gun battles, all this great stuff, but they don't put in there the long grueling days. the miserable Afghanistan heat, the 120 days of wind, if anyone's been in Bagram knows about,
Right.
or the blistering cold that is the mountains of Afghanistan. And you still got to make sure these aircraft are ready and they're good to go.
Yeah, because if they're not ready and they're good to go, it definitely comes down to discipline and excellence, right?
Yeah.
And that have to become the habit rather than occasional achievement, right? Because you have to have discipline and excellence because, like you said, you're in charge of 4 lives.
Yeah.
You sign off on that sheet, and this goes to life too, right? If you're a leader, if you know, you're a dad of 4, right? You said, and you just set them off to have a good night out, while we do this recording. But imagine that discipline and that excellence did not come into place when you sent them off for their
Yeah,
for
it's
their treat.
yeah, it's want to make sure they succeed and want to make sure they're safe. And the greatest part about being a helicopter mechanic, I take that same mentality as to working on my wife's car. So I know that oil change that I did 3 weeks ago, it was done to specification, and they're
Mm.
going to get there and back safely.
And getting back, so you say people go on missions, come back, and what military lessons continue to guide you every major decision you make today?
Well, that's the best part about it. Military
Mm.
guided me through everything. I mean, they taught me everything I needed to know to succeed in life. Re- The resilient part came from growing up. Hunting the good stuff was growing up, the military, and then just the army gave me a career, gave me a job, but they taught me that that job and having a good work ethic will get me very far in life, especially if I do what I'm supposed to do.
And doing what you're supposed to. That comes to part 3, right? The second amble. I like this part of the book, right? Because this is where if the ones who don't know about an amble, that's striking that metal, striking that iron. Anvil is where metal is shaped through repeated, repeated strikes.
Yeah.
So, what was the second anvil in your life,
Well,
and what did it forge into you?
it was probably getting out of the army and learning that there's a life beyond the army, and somehow I was expected to navigate it. I mean, you join the army at 18 years old, and I did 6 years, and I was thanked for my service and have a nice life. But yeah, you start learning that there's still battles outside the army. They may not be in a war zone, but I became a volunteer firefighter in upstate New York. I still wanted that. I still wanted to help people in some way, and that was it. And then I got a job, and it was all of that going through after my. Of course, I had my first divorce in the army, and
Mm.
then I was married again to another woman who was in the army, and yeah, it was getting tried and tested is never easy.
Yeah. And you had this experience, right? You had your first sergeant in the rise. And that's why I talk about building up that leadership person inside of you, right? Because you had the first sergeant, like, man, this guy is rock solid. He's teaching you everything. But then you had the flip side, right? You had the colonel
Oh
on the
yeah,
outside. That was the total opposite, right? So now you're learning 2 sides of leadership, right? Like, man, so which failure taught you the leadership lesson you most value today? Because I know you really talked heavily about the first sergeant. Like that's the leader that you strive to be, and then you got a taste of the other side as well.
oh yeah. The first sergeant I had was he was more of that show by action. Just
Mm.
you don't need to point fingers. You don't need to play the blame game. You need to get the job done. Afterward, you can discuss how everything is done and what you can do better. And then I had the colonel who he liked the sound of his own voice. He liked to be loud. He liked to be heard. And once he was done, is when you could get the mission started. Which, to me, that wasn't going to fly.
Mm. And that's where it comes down to not going to fly as being the cost of success, right?
Yeah.
Success is expensive. That's an expensive trait. So what did becoming the man you are today cost you? Like, what did it cost you going back from that time when you was in the junior JR ROTC and then you became into the military? Like, what did that cost you?
Uh, a lot of hard lessons learned, a lot of advice I should have taken, advice that I was freely given, and of course, a young man, I see it happening today when I give advice, but thinking that I knew better.
Mm. Did it cost you sleep, peace, identity, time?
Oof. Oh, so much time, so much. I mean, of course, your body. You go through the
Mm.
any military service, it's going to take its toll on your body. Uh, and your mental health, of course. I mean, there's still times where I wake up with a cold sweat and mind racing, and it's yeah, your mental health it takes its beating. That's for sure.
Mm. Was it worth the price?
At that time, it wasn't, but I mean,
Mm.
sitting from where I am now, yes.
Yeah. Could we talked about that right before we hit the record
Yeah.
button? Like sometimes we don't know when we're going through an event 10 years from now, how that event makes sure that you're able to get through that incident. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's for you because when you talked about in your book, when you was 3 years old, you seen some things and you said that your memory is good, but that helped prepare you for something that happened 10 years later.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's for sure. I mean, you don't realize it at the time. You're going through it,
Mm,
you're surviving it. And then 20 years down the road, you can sit that down and look at it and like, that's why I make the decisions I make now. And it's crazy when you sit down and think about what all you went through and how that impacts your choices today.
yeah. And when I look at the book, so for the ones who just pulling up the chair, come sit on the stoop to get to school, we're talking to the author, Michael Cline of Beyond the Red Line. And this is what I call it the red line moment, right? Your book is called Beyond the Red Line. So I had to keep looking at it. Beyond the red line, beyond the red line. Tell me about the exact moment you realized I can't keep living like this.
Well, it was a mixture of about 5 or 6 years ago. I lost my brother, my oldest battle buddy that I had growing up. 6 months later, I lost my commander. I lost my grandmother, and I was alone in the world. I was in a loveless marriage, about to go through a divorce,
Mm,
going through depression. I was gaining weight rapidly, not realizing that there was something medically wrong with me as well. And at that point, I thought I was meeting that breaking point. It was
mm.
one of the hardest times in my life.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that sharing because, and this is part of the success, right? Like people don't see what it takes. Like that's why I actually like, what's the cost, the price
Yeah.
that had to pay for that success? Or what belief about success had to be broken before your real growth could begin?
That just because I was alone doesn't mean that it was the end. Just because I had
Mm,
lost everyone doesn't mean that I'm gonna get lost too. It's there's still life that goes on. There's still good I can do. There's still knowledge I can impart with others,
mm,
especially with my grandmother. She taught me so many lessons, and how unfair would it be to her memory if I just stopped there and didn't pass it on?
yeah. And that comes when you rotate back now. You did your time in the service and now you're coming back into the civilian theater, right? Like you coming back into I'll call it the rear with the gear, right? Like the transition often means losing a familiar identity, right? Because that's one thing I had to deal with, right? Being in the military for so long, and now I'm transitioning back, and I'm trying to go back to where I came from when I first started out, and all these years done elapsed.
Yeah.
Everybody's changed. I'm trying to go back to the old kings before I went in. So, how did you redefine success after military service?
Oh, I mean, when I got out of the military, I thought success
Mm,
was getting promoted, moving on up. I It took me a good while after I got out of the military to realize that getting promoted, getting where I wanted, getting the duty I
mm,
wanted, that wasn't success. That was success when I was there. It took
mm.
me. I got out of the army in 2015. Here it is, 2026. I just recently realized that success is I have a family that loves me, that I'll do anything for. That's success. It's not the money that's in my bank. It's not the job title I have. It's not my rank. Success is. It took me years to realize that my family was my success.
Yeah. Because right then you was writing your story and you didn't even know about it, right? Until you say your wife told you like, hey, you need to go put it in a book, right? So
Oh yeah, I wrote the first few chapters, and I wanted to share it with someone. I mean, it was deeply personal. It's my childhood,
mm,
and I shared it to her. And then the next message I got from her was, "If you don't finish this book, I might kill you." I'm like, "Oh,
mm,
well, looks like I'm finishing the book." But I mean,
yeah,
she went through her own battles, her own strengths, and as she read that, and she wanted to make sure that other people knew what I went through and they can learn too.
right. So I'm sure it probably started out something like a letter, or like let me start off just writing this one page, right? If you
Yeah.
could write one letter to the young man growing up in that broken home, what would the first sentence be?
Listen to her. I spent so much time wasted of not paying attention to what I was told and thinking I knew
Mm,
better. I should have listened to her more. She gave me the keys to success. I just didn't see it at the time.
mm.
And then of
So
course
what?
the second line would definitely be keep going.
Keep going. So hearing that in your voice, would he believe you? Because remember, you know how you were when you was a little kid. Like how would you go back and he just see you as an adult talking to him as a young kid? Would he believe you?
Now, knowing me, probably not. And I mean, like, take for instance my partner at work. Kid's 24, great kid.
Mm,
He's going through some relationship issues, and of course, he's asking me for advice, and then he goes the exact opposite. And then just thinking
mm,
back, I can't get mad at him because I remember doing the same thing when I was his age. So
yeah. And you talk about, doing the same thing. So it's like you're building that command structure, right? Like, hey, I want to pass on this command lesson, right? So you spent your life around command, right? Being raised with your grandmother, going into the home where it was only for women, and then you and your brother was in there, so y'all had to, navigate through that. So what was the hardest command you've ever had to give yourself?
oof, that now we're cutting the deep questions.
I told you,
Uh,
hey, this way come sit on the stoop to get the scoop, right? Because this book is so I'm so appreciated for you, one, for having the courage to put it in writing. Understand what I'm saying? Because I know
yeah.
by reading it opened up some scars I thought I had healed, some wounds I thought I had healed, but I'm glad I got a copy of this book, so it leads me to answer some deeper questions for myself. So that's why you're sitting here on the stoop to get the scoop, because I really want to hear your thought process behind that.
Yeah, I got you. Well, the one thing I would definitely say is, or the hardest command I would give myself: get help.
Mm,
I mean, everyone knows the stigma behind getting help, especially mental health, when you're in the army, when you're out of the army. No one can do
Mm.
this alone.
So what happened when you finally obeyed it?
I went and got help, and so I mean, I knew what counseling was. I was diagnosed depressed at the age of 9. I didn't
Mm.
think I was depressed again, and then finally I went and got the help, realized that the counselor was amazing, called me
Mm.
on my crap, and then seen that there was something underlying, and found out that at that point I had hypothyroidism. So I had a gland in my body that was making me more susceptible to depression, weight gain, and I would have
Oh,
never figured it out if I hadn't gotten that help. And yeah, they hadn't helped me.
yeah. And that's what it comes down to. Leadership starts with self leadership. Because as a leader, how can you go in and share with somebody, hey, you need to do this? I'm sure your grandma showed you, like, I can't tell you to do something I'm not doing.
Yeah. No, never give a command you're not willing to do yourself.
Mm. Wow. Wow, brother. So when people finish reading Beyond the Red Line, I hope they remember your story, bro. But even more, I hope they see something new in their own. So let me ask you, what's the scoop on this one right here? What's the one truth you hope becomes part of someone else's story because they cross paths with yours?
Don't give up. Even though you're
Mm.
going through some of the hardest parts in life, some of the worst things can be thrown at you, keep going. There's life beyond that red line. Just because it was marked there and everything's pushing you past it doesn't mean that it's actually going to break. It's going to build up that pressure. It's going to forge you into what you need to be.
Wow. And that's building up to the war games, right? You talk about the architect of chaos, right?
Oh,
Like to have I call it that duck mentality, right? Smooth on top, paddling like crazy underneath, but you
yeah.
just see the water going smooth. So what does strategic command really mean beyond the battlefield?
So, what happened in part 5 of the book is I went through 15 scenarios. And it's
Mm-hmm.
command scenarios. It started out as I was a battle captain, '03, all the way up. And these were actual scenarios that the government AI systems put me through. And I beat it every time. And I went to a record of 15-0, just using logic and making decisions that normal commanders wouldn't make because they haven't gone through what I've gone through. And it was looking back and going through each of those simulations and figuring out why I was doing what I was doing is what made me want to write the book.
Yeah. So I know your doc said like, hey, your IQ is pretty high. You know,
Yeah.
like that's your superpower, right? Like you have a high IQ, like your thought process is different from the others. So how do you make sound decisions when information is incomplete? What's the scoop on that?
Well, I mean, from what I see, you're never going to have all the information. Use what
Mm.
you have, move forward with what you have, and along the way, you'll find out what you need to know. And of
Mm.
course, you never go into any situation thinking that you know everything. You, as my grandma would say, if you're the smartest man in the room,
Time
you're
for you
in
to
the
go to
wrong
a new
room.
room. Yeah.
Yeah,
Time for you to go to a new room, right?
absolutely.
So building leaders just doesn't simply survive chaos, right? They don't just survive chaos, but create clarity within it,
Yeah.
right? Because you see, if you used to think if you're in a hostile location, you know, everything is going on, explosions, bombs, and let's translate that to life. You know, you're in a transition space. You going from one job to the next. You know, rent's due, this bill is due, the car is not working, the mechanic is unlooked for. You know, you got to take the dog to the hospital. You ran out of pet insurance, and all this stuff is forming to this unrealistic chaos, right? But to survive, what create the clarity within it? how does somebody create that clarity with it? Because you say your brain operates differently. So can you share that with us and give us a scoop on that? Like, how can somebody create that clarity when chaos is just everywhere?
Well, the biggest thing is taking a step back. I mean,
Mm,
everyone wants to hyper fixate on every problem that arrives as it arrives. But if you just wait a second, take a step back and look at the bigger picture,
mm,
you'll be able to slow things down and realize, yeah, that's coming at me right now, but if I do this, and it's going to avoid something else happening.
mm.
So it's reacting immediately is probably the worst thing you can do. Just take a step back, take a second, especially as a civilian. You don't have
Mm.
those gunshots coming at you. You don't have those mortars coming around you.
Right,
You can afford that time.
right. And now you talk about gunshot, you talk about as soon as you said that, I thought about scars, right? You know, like when you get a scar on your hand, you know, it's like a reminder, right? I used to pick my scars to the scabs. I used to re-pick it and you know, to where I have permanent marks. So, what's the scar you're most grateful for?
Uh, my childhood. I mean, most people look at my
Mm,
childhood and they see it as a nightmare.
mm,
Honestly, I looking back, I would have loved to have a normal mom, a normal dad, do those normal parents things, but that's not what created the man I was.
mm.
Going through my childhood and looking back, seeing the horrible excuses of a parent I had, that's what created me, and that's the scar I'm most grateful for.
Right. So I think of it as a life scar, right? You know, the lesson you never, ever would have learned any other way, right? Like you had to go through that process by getting dropped off, right? Getting
Yeah.
dropped off. Hey, I hope everything works out. I'm gone, right? To get, you know, into a place where your grandma's like, man, I'm gonna make sure that you and your brother is good, regardless if there's no food on the table. That cereal with that milk is gonna taste fantastic, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
like I'm gonna make sure that y'all two have before I have. So that's very respectful. So no other, you couldn't learn it no other way, right? That lesson, that life scar,
I mean,
but you
you
use
can
that.
read about it, you can learn about it,
Mm,
but the only way for it to really sink in is to live through it, survive it.
mm. Wow, survived, man. So I know some people are putting up the chair, man. They tuned in to this, they're listening to it. So we're talking to the author, Michael Cline, Beyond the Red Line, and we're giving little tidbit insights of his book, but this is like life lessons that we're talking about. So, Mike, I want you to imagine there's an empty chair sitting right next to us on the stoop, sitting right here beside us, sitting in the chair, listening. If someone feels like life feels completely out of control, chaotic, they grew up like you, they're overwhelmed, they're exhausted, they convince themselves that they will never rise where they started. Don't talk to me. Talk to them that's sitting down in the chair right next to you.
Well, I mean, I lived my whole life with making fun of it, but I'm the son of a crack whore and a dead Irish terrorist. The army gave me a secret clearance.
Hmm,
Well, what's your excuse for trying to give up now?
hmm. Why are they worth fighting for?
Eh, Because they're another human. I mean, especially if they're a brother or sister in arms. I mean,
Hmm.
they wrote that check up to their entire life. I mean, they deserve the help, especially from those of us that have went through what they've gone through or can just be there and listen to them. No
Wow.
one deserves to be alone.
And when you was going through that life journey before you became a published author, what's one truth about leadership that you had to learn the hard way that every young leader should hear today, right? Because we talk about that, right? Because there's always somebody younger in this world than us, right? So like they're coming up and they're in that initial leadership realm.
Yeah. Listen to those next to you, those on your left, those on your right. Hear their stories and learn from their stories. Don't just disregard their stories. Don't disregard even the jokes that they tell you. I mean, behind every joke, there's some piece of
Some
information
truth.
that
Yeah.
you're going to learn. It's going to help somehow, and it's going to be their truth somehow.
Going to be their truth. So when people finish reading your book, Beyond the Red Line, or listening to this conversation, I hope they remember your story. But more than that, I hope they discover something about themselves. So let me ask you this. What's the scoop on what truth do you hope becomes part of someone else's story?
Honestly, I hope that they learn that they too can they can get through everything, and hopefully they
Mm,
can write it down and pass their story on to someone else, and it can help them. I mean,
mm,
we leave this world better than how we found it.
mm.
Just like we're taught in the military, you're issued something, you return it better than how you got it.
Mm. So I'm looking into the camera because I'm seeing the young Mike and now seeing the publisher author Mike, right? So when all the titles disappear, published author, um, mechanic, J. Rodsey, that when all that disappears, nobody will remember your rank. Nobody will remember the rewards. When your grandkids talk about you, right? Because you see, you got kids. So when your kids have kids, talk to you. So what do you hope they made you to be a great? Like what will they say?
Man, that's hard to answer. But I mean, I hope they realize that I tried to make the world better in the ways I could. Tried to make their lives better, and I tried to give them what I would have wanted.
And for me, going through your book, I seen like, man, somebody probably pick up like, oh, he wasn't successful. Oh, he wasn't accomplished. I think that you was great because you went through some trying times and you lined your book up with the mentality of it all started when I was 3, from what I can remember. Here I am 30 plus years later, and I'm sitting on the stoop sharing a scoop about my book as being a published author, excuse me.
Yeah.
So that's more being than successful, right? That's past successful. You're more than accomplished, right? Because you said that in the book, you said you didn't think you was going to get to this point where you are right now.
No, no. I mean, looking back, I didn't think I'd make it past 30. Let alone, I'm an
Mm.
honorable discharged veteran of the U.S. Army. I was a firefighter. I was president of the fire department. I was a senior sales associate for AT&T. I'm back to working on Blackhawks. I have not one but 2 business degrees, completely paid for by the U.S. Army. I'm a father of 4. I mean, I didn't think I would would have done any of that. It, it's crazy. And
Yeah. And that's why I asked you that question, because when I first got into the book, it's like, man, I was 3 years old when this happened. I was dropped off at my grandmother's doorstep and she was in a place where she couldn't even take us, but she took us anyway.
Yeah.
Which led to all the accolades you just said.
Yeah.
So for the person that's listening in, What's one thing that you want to tell them? I know we already talked about that.
Oh
That
yeah.
beyond the red line, like if they get to that red line and that red line is just, you ever see that red line when it jumps and it when it goes over, when that person is at that red line.
Oh, it's wanting to break. It's breaking is the easy part. The hardest part is to keep going. Don't let the hard times make you stop. There's so much
Mm,
more if you keep going.
mm. And when I was reading the book, like I said, and I shared with you my story. 'Cause that's why I do with all
Yeah.
the guests. I share my story, my journey, how I got to sit on the stoop to share the scoop with you. And prior to this, so this is the stuff I jotted down, and to align me with your book. You ready for it? Because it's gonna, like, this is the first time you hear it. This is the first time the listeners and the viewers gonna hear it. Because I like to save it for the end, because this is my thank you as an author. Thank you as a reader for putting and being vulnerable in your story to let others know that you can make it through too. Because I did as well. So check this out. Leadership begins long before someone gives you a title. That's what I took away from the book.
Yeah.
Broken beginnings doesn't determine lasting endings. You just shared that. You started off and you said broken beginnings. 2 degrees? You doing something that you love now? You see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have to stay that way. Discipline creates options when chaos removes them. Master the fundamentals before chasing the spotlight. You have that in your book. And your grandma was telling you to master the fundamentals, right? She was preparing you for being where you are right now.
Oh yeah.
Your past may explain you, but it doesn't have to define you.
Yeah.
You know how long I was battling that right there? How I was ashamed, embarrassed of my past.
Oh yeah. I spent years making my past into a joke.
Mm. And that's where calm is so contagious in moments of crisis, right? The duck mentality, I call it, right? Smooth on top, crazy way. Yo, you be calm, like you said, take a step back, see what's going on. Don't you said it earlier. And this is one of my favorite ones that I have. I'm gonna write this down. Like back in the day when you on punishment or whatever. I used to be a bad young teenager. Right, I used to have to write words 50 times and write sentences. So this is gonna be my sentences I write over and over again, so I can get ingrained in my head. The red line isn't where your story ends. It's where resiliency begins. Because you say you was at that breaking point.
Okay.
But that was part of the transition.
Yeah, that breaking point was I wanted to give up. I wanted to just call it quits. How can I keep going with when I don't have anything? I
So
don't
why
have that
didn't you?
safety net.
So why didn't you give up?
After thinking about it long, hard, and I couldn't do that to both my brother and my grandmother's memory.
Mm,
I couldn't betray them like that. They gave up so much to make sure that I could go forward. I owed it to them to keep going. And then now I hold my youngest son, just turned 1 2 weeks ago.
that's awesome.
I named him after my late brother. So I
Nice.
get to hold him and show him a picture of the woman and brother that made me who I am.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I appreciate this conversation. It has helped me take off the Band-Aid on some of my wounds. I'm still letting heal. I need that air to hit it, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
I let that air hit it, so it could help with the healing process.
Yeah.
So how can somebody get a copy of Beyond the Red Line so they could see their version of themselves in this book, like I seen my version of me inside your book? How can they get a copy? How can they reach out? How can they
Well,
connect?
the easiest way to get the book is actually on Amazon. You can search my name, Michael Cline, or Beyond the Red Line. And the best part is for Kindle Select readers, the book's free. All you got to do is hit the download and just start reading. And then if
There
you
you
really
go.
enjoy it,
Wow.
on Friday, my second book comes out.
Hey, you already gave me that invitation. You know, you got to come back and sit on the stoop for that one too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It was my first step into a military techno thriller. So, I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
I'd take my life, and 5 years from now, we go and see what's up.
Dang, that's what I'm talking about, man. I really appreciate it, Mike. Thank you for coming on, sitting on the stoop to get in the scoop. Remember, you do not have to drown in the sea of transition. Grab that VET S.O.S Lifeline. We're here to help. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. It's on all the platforms. So if you want to go on YouTube, it's there. Spotify is there. Apple Music is there. It's there. Just grab it. Send it to somebody. Listen to it over again. I'm sure you'll hear something that you didn't hear the first time. Until next time, everybody. Take care. Peace.